Hey guys, it's Lucky Ghost here, and today we're going to be talking about the solo Stamina Sorcerer. Sorcerers in general are fantastic solo classes, and the Stamina variant is no different. It's incredibly powerful and difficult to kill, and when you combine its already great survivability with the Ring of the Pale Order, it becomes nearly unkillable. This build doesn't require any trial gear if you don't want to, it's perfectly capable with or without it, and it's going to be able to solo all content in the game that can be soloed. If you're looking for something to take down veteran Vodashron Hollows, or veteran Maelstrom Arena, or if you just want to go soloing around the world, or if you just want to go questing or solo dungeons rather than wait for a group, this build is going to be able to do that for you. As always, I'm going to put a link to the written guide in the description below so that you can refer back to that if you miss any information in the guide. Here in the video, I'm going to go over everything that we're going to choose, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to talk about the skills we're going to use and how we use them to maximize their effectiveness. In this video, we're going to be talking about race, mundus, attributes, consumables, gear, skills, rotation, passives, and your champion points. First up, race. You can't go wrong with stamina characters if you choose Khajiit or Dark Elf. Orc being right behind them, followed closely by Redguard and Wood Elf. Those two would be your sustain choices. For the Mundus, while soloing, we're going to take Lover, and while we're in groups, we're going to take Thief. As for our attributes, we're going to put all 64 points into Strength, and as for our consumables, we're going to use Lavafoot Soup for the sustain and for the extra stamina. This is going to be great for our damage and our ability to keep doing damage without running out of stamina. Alternatively, you could also choose Dubious Cameron Throne if you wish you had a little more health. As for the potions, you can use Essence of Stamina potions anytime you're doing something easy, and anytime you're doing something difficult, go ahead and slot those Essence of Weapon Power potions. Those are going to give you an extra 20% weapon damage, extra crit chance, and they're going to restore your stamina all at the same time. All right, now let's talk about the gear. I've been gearing out my stamina tunes a little bit different this patch due to the nerf and penetration that we're experiencing right now. We are tending to underpen both in group and in solo, and we have to work a little harder to get our penetration up where we need it to be than we used to. So let's get into it. For the helmet, we're going to be taking Slime Craw. This provides the most critical chance for any one piece bonus in the game. We're only taking the one piece of Slime Craw because we're pairing it with the Ring of the Pale Order. The Ring of the Pale Order is fantastic now, and it's getting a buff in Blackwood, which is going to make it even stronger. It's going to restore 20% of our damage dealt instead of 18 as health, and it's going to remove the cap on that heal. Right now, you can only get 2750 health back per tick. Now that cap is removed. So because we're wearing the Ring of the Pale Order, we're going to have to wear the 5th piece of our Zogvin set up here on our shoulder. Zogvin is a great set right now, and it's especially great for sorcerers because they have limited bar space, which means it's hard enough to find room for all the skills you want to use, let alone make room for Barb Trap. So what we're going to do is, instead of putting Barb Trap on our bar, we're going to get that buff here from the Zogvin set. The 5-piece bonus is going to give us stacks of extra critical, so this set is giving us a ton of crit chance. It's also giving us minor force with the 5-piece bonus, and the 4-piece bonus is giving us penetration. This set is giving everything that a growing sorcerer needs, and it's a dungeon set, so it's easy to get. For the front bar weapon, I highly recommend using a Maul. I have a great sword here because the Maul is literally the only item from the Zogvin set that I don't currently have in my collection. I've just had horrible RNG getting the Maul, so I used the two-handed sword instead. The Maul would be a little bit better, especially for solo, but the build is more than capable without the perfect weapon. Now for the 5-piece set on the body, we have a lot of flexibility here. You can either go ahead and take Relican, which I really like for soloing, especially in dungeons like Vodashron Hollows where the boss fights are pretty long. You have a ton of time to get your stacks of Reli on the boss, and therefore this set does a ton of damage for you. However, if you're newer to the game, you don't have Reli, or you're not great at light attack weaving, then feel free to take a set like Briar, which is going to be fantastic when paired with Zogvin. You're going to get a lot of weapon damage from Briar, you're going to get a lot of crit from Zogvin, and they're going to go really well together. Briar is a fantastic overland set that you can collect in Hrothgar at very low level very easily. For the back bar, we're going to use the Maelstrom Bow. This drops in the Maelstrom Arena. Go ahead and farm the Maelstrom Arena on normal and get the normal Maelstrom Bow. You don't need the perfected. The extra weapon crit is nice, but you can worry about that way down the road when it's easy for you to farm veteran Maelstrom Arena. The difference in damage between the two is maybe 1 or 2%. Next, let's get into the skills. We've got a couple of options for the skills. I find the Sorcerer to be incredibly tanky, especially when running Brawler, and so you have a couple of options here. You can either take Critical Surge or not, because we're wearing the Ring of the Pale Order. Alternatively, you could take Critical Surge and wear this instead of the Ring of the Pale Order and wear a full monster set if you prefer. However, Critical Surge is not a one-to-one substitute for Ring of the Pale Order. Ring of the Pale Order can bring more health back than Critical Surge. So both setups are going to work, and if you want to be ultra unkillable, use both. what I elected to do on my setup here is I went with bound armaments, but we could have easily replaced this with critical surge. Bound armaments is going to give us a little more damage. Critical surge would give us a little more survivability. So what is bound armaments doing for us? Every time you light attack, you get a stack of bound weapon, and these can stack up to 4 times. And then you can proc it once again, once you've got all 4 stacks, to unleash those 4 bound weapons, doing 4,000 damage apiece. But perhaps the coolest thing about this skill is what it's doing when you're not even using it. While slotted, our max stamina is increased by 8%. That is massive. That is a ton of extra stamina just for slotting this ability. Also, our light attacks deal 10% more damage. Anytime you get a substantial buff to your light attacks like that on any build, it's very powerful because we light attack more than we use any other ability in the game. We're light attacking in between every ability. So lots of light attacks with a big buff means a nice increase in damage for our character. Our second ability is going to be Brawler. Brawler is so powerful and so fun, and the sustain on this build can handle it. The way Brawler works is it does conal AoE damage in front of your character, and for each enemy you hit, you get an additional amount of shield, up to 300% of the initial shield. So essentially, the more things you hit, the bigger the shield this puts on you. The more things that are attacking you, the safer you are. If you're ever in danger, whenever you're in doubt, just keep brawling, and between that and your Ring of the Bell order, you should be able to survive. Then once it's safe, start reapplying all your dots again. The third ability on our front bar is going to be Executioner. This ability does up to 400% damage to enemies less than 50% health. So around 33% or so, we're going to start using Executioner if it's safe to do so. However, this only hits one enemy. So if there's 3 things in front of you, keep brawling because it's more important to hit all of them and to protect yourself. However, if you're down to the last boss or the last enemy, then go ahead and start executing. The fourth ability on the front bar is Consuming Trap. This is part of the reason why our sustain is so amazing. Consuming Trap is a pretty unique ability because it costs magicka, but despite that, it does a ton of damage when used on a stamina tune. It's going to be doing 16,000 physical damage over 10 seconds. And if the affected enemy dies, we get a tripod. In other words, it's going to give us mag, stam, and health back every time the enemy dies while this is on it. And it gives us a huge amount of stamina, almost 7,000 there when we're unbuffed. Which reminds me, all of these numbers are unbuffed. When you're actually in combat, you have a lot of buffs ticking that are going to increase these numbers substantially. So use Consuming Trap as a dot and keep it in your rotation, but always make sure that it's on something that's about to die if you're getting a little bit low on stamina. The fifth ability on our front bar is Summon Unstable Clanfear. The Clanfear is going to do a few things for us. It's going to attack the enemy, doing pretty decent damage. It's also capable of healing us if we activate it again after it's already summoned, and it ends up tanking a lot of things. I was doing some boss fights in Bradashran Hollows, and I was surprised how often the boss decided to latch on to my Clanfear instead of me, making the fight laughably easy because I could just sit there and parse and pop his heal every once in a while to make sure he didn't die. As for the front bar ultimate, we're going to slot Flawless Dawnbreaker, but we're not actually going to use this. The reason we're putting this here is because it does a 3% damage buff to the entire bar, and anytime we're killing things, it's going to be giving us ult regen thanks to Banish the Wicked, which says you generate 3 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy, as long as you have a Fighter's Guild ability slotted. We're going to be killing a lot of things, so we're going to be generating a lot of ultimate thanks to this passive. On the back bar, we're going to be using Endless Hail. This is going to pair perfectly with our Maelstrom Bow. Remember, with Endless Hail, you always want to let it tick all the way until it expires because the last ticks of this dot are the ones that do the most damage. This is thanks to the Maelstrom Bow, which makes each tick of damage do more than the tick before it. The second ability on the back bar is going to be Hurricane. This ability is going to put a nice AoE dot around us. It's also going to give us increased move speed after we pop it, and most importantly perhaps is that it's going to give us Major Resolve. Major Resolve is going to increase our resistances by 6,000, which means we're going to take substantially less damage, and this is part of the reason that our character is so hard to kill in combat. The third ability on the back bar is Resolving Vigor. If you're ever feeling pressured, go ahead and pop your Resolving Vigor, then do a dodge roll. By the time you stand up, you should be back at full health. This ability is going to heal you for 4,000 health per second. So in just a few seconds, you're back up to full every time. It can out heal pretty much everything. So, pop it, do a dodge roll, or pop it and block, and you should be okay. The fourth ability on the back bar is going to be Razor Caltrops. This ability is going to provide Major Breach, which is going to debuff the enemy substantially. They're going to take way more damage because it's going to remove 6,000 of their resistances. The bigger the gap between the enemy's resistances and your penetration, the less damage you do to that enemy, which is why we want to make sure we get a little bit of penetration tucked into our build wherever we can without giving up too much crit and weapon damage. Caltrops is a fantastic way to get an extra 6,000 penetration without sacrificing any of your gear. The fifth ability on the back bar is Unstable Clanfear again. This ability has to be on both bars, otherwise whenever you bar swap, it's going to unsummon the pet. So make sure if you put it on the front bar, you also put it on the back bar. And as for our back bar ultimate, this is the ultimate we're actually going to use, Greater Storm Atronach. It's a fantastic single target damage ability, and it lasts for a whopping 28 seconds. Throw this down whenever you're fighting a boss, and it's going to do a ton of damage for a very long time. All right, which passives are we going to take? We're going to take two passives from Dark Magic. That's going to be Unholy Knowledge, which is going to reduce the health, magicka, and stamina costs of our abilities by 6%. And we're also going to take Persistence, which says after blocking an attack, your next health, magicka, and stamina abilities cost 15% less. From the Daedric line, we're going to take Rebate, which restores 300 magicka or stamina when one of your non-ultimate Daedric summoning abilities ends. We have 3 different Daedric summoning abilities on our bar between the Clan Fear, the Greater Storm Atronach, and our Bound Armaments, which means this will be restoring our resources pretty often. We're also going to take Power Stone, which reduces the cost of our ultimate by 15%. This is one of the reasons that sorcerers make great werewolves, as it happens, because their werewolf ultimate costs 15% less, which means they can get back into werewolf form 15% sooner. But for this build, we won't be going werewolf. This just means we get to cast our Storm Atronach 15% sooner. And the next one we're going to take is Daedric Protection, increases our health and stamina recovery by 20% while you have a Daedric summon ability slotted. Hey, that's all the time. And next, we're going to take Expert Summoner, increases our max health by 8% when you have a Daedric summoning pet active. Well, we're always going to have our Clan Fear out, which means we're always going to get an extra 8% health. So for these two passives at the bottom, you can see how important it is for a sorcerer to take advantage of this line. If a sorcerer is not using this line, they're missing out on 20% recovery, and they're also missing out on 8% health. That's pretty huge to lose. So you very rarely see a good sorcerer build that isn't using one of these abilities to take advantage of these passives. Next, we have Storm Calling. We're going to be taking Capacitor, which is going to increase our magicka recovery by 10%. Hey, why not? We don't use a lot of magicka, but 10% is 10%. We're going to take Energize, which is going to increase our physical and shock damage by 5%. We're doing a lot of physical damage, so that's perfect. We're going to take Amplitude, which is going to increase our damage done against enemies by 1% for every 10% health they have. This means when an enemy is at 100% health, we're doing an extra 10% damage to them. For this reason, sorcerers do more damage at the beginning of a lot of fights. Their damage can be a bit front loaded. The next passive we're going to take is Expert Mage, which increases our weapon and spell damage by 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. So because of this passive, we're getting an extra 4% damage on the front bar, and we're getting an extra 6% damage on the back bar. If you wanted to min-max your damage, you could go ahead and slide Hurricane up onto the front bar so that you have the 6% bonus damage on the front bar. However, in actual practice, it is nice to be able to just hit the button and drop your Consuming Trap on an enemy that's about to die without having to bar swap. Neither way is going to be right or wrong. It's only 2% damage, but for the min-maxers out there, 2% is nothing to laugh at. Next, our weapon passives. We're using a two-handed weapon, so we're going to take all of the two-handed passives. These are going to increase our damage and improve our sustain, but one that's worth noting is heavy weapons. This is the one that tells you the bonus you get depending on which weapon you pick. I suggested that you use a maul or a mace, which is going to increase your armor penetration by 3,300. This is what we would use ideally on a two-handed stam tune right now. However, in the event that you can't get a maul, then go ahead and use a sword, and last, an axe. And on the back bar, we're going to be using the bow. So we're going to take all of the bow passives. These are going to increase our damage and our sustain. And then Hasty Retreat is going to make it so that whenever you roll dodge with a bow out, you're going to move 30% faster for 4 seconds. It's a great mobility ability. As for our armor passives, we're going to grab all of the medium armor passives and none of the light or heavy because we're not wearing light or heavy. We're slotting the Flawless Dawnbreaker for the passives, and you can use it in the event that you won't have time to get your ultimate up and you need your ultimate sooner. It's a decent ultimate, and it buffs your weapon damage by 300 for 18 seconds. So because it's there and because we may use it, we're going to be grabbing the first 4 passives. These are going to decrease the cost of the ability, buff the bar by 3% damage, and give us ult regen whenever we kill enemies, while also increasing the damage of the Fighters Guild ability by 20%. So be sure to grab all of these because we are slotting one Fighters Guild ability on the front bar. On the Undaunted, we're going to grab both passives. In Assault, we're going to take Continuous Attack. This is going to make us move 30% faster at all times when we're on a mount. You only have to get to level 3 in the Assault line. You can do this by going to Cyrodiil, doing the Zone Story quest. Just make sure you don't skip the training section, and after about 2 minutes, you'll be level 3, and you can unlock your Continuous Assault passive. We're going to take all of our racial passives, and we're going to take Medicinal Use, level 3, in Alchemy. Medicinal Use makes your potions last as long as the cooldowns, so you can have 100% uptime on that Major Brutality, which increases your weapon damage by 20%. You can have 100% on the extra crit that your potion's giving you, and also the stamina recovery bonus that you get from endurance. Okay, as for our rotation, we're going to start by pre-buffing with bound armaments and our pet. Get those both up and running. Then we're going to go to the back bar and pre-buff with hurricane. Then we're going to throw down our dots. We're going to drop our endless hail and our razor caltrops on the enemy. Then we're going to go to the front bar, throw down our consuming trap, and begin brawling. We're going to brawl until one of those dots or buffs falls off, and then we'll stop brawling to reapply it and then go back to brawling. Once the enemy hits 33% health, if it's safe to do so, you can execute with executioner instead of brawl. This is going to put out a lot more single target damage than brawl, but it only hits one thing, so it's really only worth doing if you're only fighting one or two things. Otherwise, brawl on. And anytime your ult is up and you want to use it, go ahead and throw down that Greater Storm Atronach. All right, as for the champion points, Zos has modified them once again. They're making it easier to hit max power. They're bringing the max power down from 2200 to around 1650. So we're going to be hitting max power a lot sooner, which means we have to grind a lot less. This is great for everybody that's not already 2200 CP. They've also made it easier to get some damage mitigation. Preparation now costs fewer points and simultaneously reduces damage more than it used to. It's gone up from 8 to 10%, and it's gone down from 40 points needed to 20 points needed. So you're getting a lot more damage mitigation a lot easier now. So feel free to deviate from my recommended champion point path to obtain preparation sooner than later if your character is feeling a little bit squishy and you wish you had more damage reduction. 10% damage mitigation is a lot, and it will make a difference. However, for this build, I am going to prioritize damage quite a bit. I will be getting preparation earlier than I used to because of how accessible it is and how impactful it is, but it is still going to be quite a ways off from the beginning of your character. All right, we're going to start with 20 points into precision, 50 points into fighting finesse, and then be sure to slot fighting finesse. Then we're going to go into the elbow, and we're going to put 20 points into piercing. Then we're going to back out. We're going to put 50 points into deadly aim, 50 points into master at arms, and 50 points into thaumaturge. Make sure you slot all three of those. They are all slottables. Then we're going to put 20 points into tireless discipline. Then we're going to go into the chest. We're going to put 10 points into quick recovery, 20 points into preparation. We're going to go back out, go into the elbow again. We're going to put 20 points into battle mastery, 30 points into mighty, and then another 20 to top off battle mastery. We'll go back out and we'll go back into the chests, and we're going to get the rest of our damage mitigation by topping off elemental ages and hardy. For the champion points beyond this point, be sure to check out the written guide linked in the description below. Next, let's talk about the red tree. We're going to start off by putting 50 points into boundless vitality and 50 points into rejuvenation. These are both slottables, so make sure you slot them. And remember, after you slot these slottables, you also have to hit the confirm button, or else you're not getting credit for them. So make sure after you're done putting your points in that you do hit the confirm button at the bottom, or else everything you do doesn't count yet. Then we're going to go here to templing and put 15 points in. Then we're going to put 10 points into mystic tenacity, 20 points into hero's vigor, and 50 points into bloody renewal. Make sure to slot bloody renewal as it is a slottable. Then we're going to go back over here to ironclad, put 50 points into that, and slot it as well. Then we're going to top off tumbling, and we're going to top off defiance. Then we're going to go over to this side, put 8 points into hasty, fill up tireless guardian, fill up fortification, fill up hasty now, and then fill up sprinter. For where to put your points beyond this point, be sure to check out the written guide linked in the description below. Last but not least, the green tree. The green tree is a tree that is meant to not be min-maxed. There's no additional power to be found here. There's no wrong or right choice. Basically, you're going to want to invest in the things that apply to what you're doing. This side over here on the left is thieving. This side over here is fishing. This is potion and food efficiency. And then you in the chest area here, you have nodes and treasure chests and gear related things like disassembly. Basically, pick the things that seem like they're going to be the most useful for you and choose those passives. But don't forget to slot them if they're slottables. I'm going to let you choose where to put these points. However, if you want to know which ones I usually grab, I'll put that in the written guide linked in the description below. Alright guys, that's all there is to the solo Stamina Sorcerer. This solo Stamina Sorcerer puts out a ton of damage and does it without ever feeling like it's in danger. It's a brawler build, so it has great cleave. It hits lots of things all the time. And because we're pairing that with the gear and the abilities we're pairing with, we have fantastic single target damage as well. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please consider liking and subscribing so you can be alerted to more Elder Scrolls content. If you ever want to hang out with someone else who loves ESO, be sure to swing by my stream over at twitch.tv/luckyghost. And finally, I'd like to thank my YouTube members for supporting the channel by becoming members. To find out how to become a member of this channel and what the perks are, click the join button below. I'll see you in the next video.